Hello. This is, Count Victor, or rather the, person behind Count Victor. This is my first time doing a video like this. I'm, going to be doing a narration video of a story that I wrote for another Vtuber. Her name is Caci Vulpecula. She will be graduating October 17th, 2021. And this is a Halloween story I wrote for her. It ended up a bit longer than intended, about 60 pages, plus a page with a goodbye message for her. And, Cassie, I need to thank you for letting me do this, both writing the story and making this narration video. You've been a friend in the short time we've known each other, and it'll be sad to see you go. But so long as you're moving on to a brighter future, I'm happy for you. I'm happy. Thank you. Again. Been an inspiration. You're a great entertainer and a good person. Thanks. Now, I guess to get a little back into character, a little more in character, Count Victor. So, today, I will be reading a story. A story of mystery. A story of psychic powers and possibly murder. Sorry, a little fun playing around with the puppet animations. Let me just set the mood with a little music. This is Caci Vulpecula in Hoary Halloween, Chapter 1. I tried to catch some Z's in the car as we were all heading to our destination in Plainsville. My brother elbowed me in the arm from the driver's seat. "Ow! Hey, what gives?" I screeched. Agitated, Caden glared at me and said, "Cassie, I'm starting to get really annoyed here. You have me play your games, you have me film your streams, and now you have me drive for hours on end to this freaking jumbled death trap. In this freaking jumbled death trap, the least you can do is be awake for when I need to brake." "The others are asleep," I defended myself. "The others aren't necessary to stop the car," he protested. "Whatever," I submitted. "I'll stay awake. How long until we are in Plainsville anyway?" My apologies for flubbing the narration a little bit. But it wouldn't be a Cassie video without some scuff. Caden confirmed. About an hour and a half now. I sat there, trying to keep my eyes open in the awkward silence. At least it would be silent, if not for types snoring in the back. They were all slumped over each other, having given up finding space. I saw a string of drool slip out of Patron's mouth and fall onto Type's shoulder. My gagging woke me up. After a while, my brother broke the not quite silence. With, "Look, I support you. I help you out where I can, because you're my little sister. All I'm saying is, you gotta make sure that you're making the right choices. I don't like this choice. It'll be fine. This Halloween stream will be my biggest hit yet. Then, people will be calling Fubuki a dollar store brand me." I exclaimed. "You can't trust this guy, Cassie," he started. "This is a total stranger." Desperate to defend my decision, I said, "He's a viewer. A viewer from my community, Caden. I know they can be harsh and occasionally too horny, but it's all in good fun. They're really good people, IRL. You're just being a worrywart." Okay, fine," he said. "I'll just be your own sense of caution myself while there. Anyway, can you kick the AC on, Cass?" Chapter 2. After a while of struggling to stay awake, Caden finally pulled up to our motel in Plainsville. I had to pull the glove box and twist the radio dial counterclockwise in order for the brakes to work for Caden. The American Psychic Inn was a generic motel with an overly gimmicky name. As my brother and I got out, I went to bang on the side door as hard as I could, screaming, "Come on, lousy deadweights! Take the rest of your nap inside." One by one, they poured out, all half asleep. Patron, my most clingy pal, Type the artist, and my friend Rumi. Then came out Fat Cat. Fat Cat was my small and chubby nephew of mysterious origin. It's mysterious because he just appeared one day. "Geez, Cassie, do you have to be so loud?" Patron whined at me. "Shut up," I began to explain. "We're at the motel. Come on, guys. This is going to be the best project I've done yet." We all went inside the lobby, and Caden rang the desk bell. After a moment of frantic rustling from the door behind the desk, out popped the manager. Middle-aged, bearded, balding man with an eye drawn on his forehead with finger paint. Dramatically, he proclaimed, "Don't tell me. I can read your mind. You're the young folks who called a few days ago for our reservations, right?" My brother stumbled. "Yeah. So what, you're psychic or something?" "Truth be told, you guys are the only ones who've called in the last 3 months," the manager begrudgingly confessed. Caden took out his wallet and pulled out a few $100 for us to spend the week. He handed over the money, saying, "I expect our rooms to be clean. This is a lot of money." "Yeah," said Patron. and most of it was mine. What's with all the psychic stuff anyway? Asked Type. It's this town's legacy. We've had more accounts of psychic abilities than any other town in the state. From little girls that read minds to frogs that make your head explode. We've had it all, explained the manager while handing over the keys. All right, well, thanks for the info, my brother said. Don't mention it, and call me Ron, the manager insisted. He took a wink at Rumi, saying, just let me know if there's anything you need. Rumi winced and pulled the low-hanging jacket over her shoulders. We all went out to find our rooms. I was put with Rumi and Fat Cat. Type and Patron were paired together, and Caden apparently ordered himself his own freaking room. Figures. In the room, I began to get dressed for bed. I kicked off my shoes toward the wall, Caden yelling from the other side as they bounced off. I slowly peeled off my extra thick and absorbent socks. Each one landed with a heavy thud on the floor. Rumi just stared at me while she changed. I guess she liked what she saw. I lifted my foot right up and took a big whiff. Rumi gagged. Yep, still odor-free, all right, I oh so beautifully declared. Cassie, said Rumi, I know we're friends and all, but just never do that again. I didn't get what she meant, but said okay anyways. I slipped off my dress. Something about how easily it slid off bothered me for some odd reason. Having put on my nightgown, I laid my head down on the pillow. It was as flat as a white fox girl. Fat Cat climbed up and curled himself into a ball on my forehead. I thought of my potential channel growth as we all drifted off to dreamland. All I could remember of my dream that night was some flashing images of a carnival, a house, and a crash. I woke up feeling like a total stress ball. I rolled Fat Cat off of my forehead, still sleeping as he flopped onto the pillow. I took a look at the clock. It was only 5:15 in the morning. I don't even know when I went to sleep. I let the others sleep as I got dressed for the day and wrung out my socks. Suddenly, there was a faint knocking on the door. I slipped on my day dress and checked to see who it was. I couldn't quite reach the peephole, so I just opened it. A strong hand grabbed me by the arm and yanked me out ferociously. I yelped and heard a familiar voice whisper, "See? That's how easy it could be. You need to think, Cassie." I stared up at Patron. I slapped his wrist in annoyance and told him to friggin' shut up. He whisper-yelled at me to keep quiet. He grinned at me, whispering, "I knew that you would go without thinking. Just like you always do. Just like you're doing with this trip." "Whatever," I scoffed. "What do you even want this early, Patron? You've got a big day coming ahead." I just wanted to see if you wanted to get breakfast before all the others woke up. There's a diner across the street, he claimed. Fine, I admitted. We went to the local diner, the Clairvoyant Cafe. Everything in this town was so cheesy and tacky. A disinterested waitress brought us our table. With a sigh, she said, "With our otherworldly powers, we know that you'll love our meal. Now what do you want?" "Don't you already know what we want?" demanded Patron. "Leave the waitress alone," I protested. "We'll just take some coffee to start and look at the menu." "Whatever," said the tired woman. Patron shrugged. "What's with this town? It's like the whole place is a loony bin." "They're all psychics, I guess," I said while putting 2 fingers on my temple. "That's not real. If they're psychics, then I'm a shaman," he replied more angrily than I would have really expected. "Oh, come on," I began. "It'll make a great setting for my Halloween stream. It's only a few days away. I bet they throw a killer Halloween party." "Oh, get real," Patron ranted. "Cassie, if..." Before he could finish, someone in the next booth just perked up. "Caci," the stranger began. "Caci Vulpecula? The streamer? Really?" Yeah," I mumbled cautiously. "What a coincidence!" he exclaimed. "It's me, Damon. I'm the one who invited you to my town." He didn't look a thing like I expected. He was slim and put together. Usually my fans have double chins or exposed ribs. His gray turtleneck was spotless, and his glasses cleanly reflective, unlike Patron's mustard-stained t-shirt. "Oh, hi! I guess we're meeting you a tad bit early," I said excitedly. He slid into the booth with Patron. "I'd sit next to you, but you've got that buzzsaw thing going on there," he explained. "It's harmless," I insisted. The waitress returned, asking, "Made up your minds?" Damon answered before me, or Patron could even speak. "3 number 5s, he said. "Trust me, you'll love them." An hour and a half later, we all went back to the motel. Caden and Rumi were waiting outside. Caden came up to me abrasively and asked, "Didn't I tell you that I would be looking out for you on this trip? You and your minion just go off without telling us in this strange town, and what? I'm supposed to be okay with that? And who's that?" "Hello," blurted Damon. "I'm actually the man who called you all here to my hometown. My name is Damon, and I..." Caden sighed, interrupting Damon. "Okay. Well, I'm Cassie's older brother. Caden, not the other one. This is Rumi." "Hi," Rumi muttered casually. I decided to speak my mind. I said to Caden, He invited us here, Caden. He was just telling us a little bit about the town. Why are you on the offensive? Because you're too careless, he explained. You have the mind of a child. I didn't even want to come here to begin with, Cassie. At least let me know before you go out. Or at least let me know before going out. Sorry, Cassie's legendary scuff permeates every collaboration. This guy could be a creep. Damon stepped in with, I can assure you that no such thing is true about me. Ask anyone in town, and they'll say that I'm a stand-up citizen. That's what people said about Bundy, my brother countered. Patron, apparently deciding to grow a spine, explained, He was just telling us about the town, man. Apparently they all believe in psychics. I hadn't noticed, snapped Caden. Okay, Caden, Rumi said. You need to calm down. Aren't we here for a reason? Yeah, to give our channels the holiday boost they need, I proclaimed. As I was explaining to these two in the diner, there is a haunted amusement park at the pier. They say people go in and are never seen again, said Damon. Okay, submitted Caden. Let's go wake up the others and see your supposedly haunted amusement park. Chapter 3. After struggling to wake up Type and Rumi, refusing to speak with the motel manager a few times, we set off. We all crammed in the Cadillac to go to the amusement park. I drove this time. Damon chose to take his own vehicle for some reason. The car started after some engine coughing, and we were on our way to fame. After an hour of driving, we finally made it to the amusement park. And I didn't even hit anyone this time. Patron, in the passenger seat, pulled the glove box and twisted the radio dial counterclockwise for my brakes to work. We spilled out and looked at our destination. It was a rusty collage of twisted metal and garish colors. A huge sign at its entrance read, Psionic Park. There was a big roller coaster that circled the whole park. I ran up to the gate and peered inside. Abandoned popcorn stands and cotton candy machines lined the boardwalk. Turning around, I almost saw something move. I turned back to the gate to find it, but Caden called me back, shouting, Cassie, you're going to get tetanus. I walked back. As I walked back, Damon began expositing. They say one of the most dangerous psychics in the world, in this town, died here. He was a puppeteer who performed during the Christmas festivities. Sumia was his name. He loved the spotlight. Dressed in his blue Santa outfit, He'd go on stage and dazzle the crowds with his tricks. His puppets seemed to move on their own, as if alive or possessed. "How'd he die?" asked Type. "One day, a freak storm blew in," continued Damon. "Sumio was performing a show for a large crowd in the Big Top that evening. A forceful gust of wind managed to push over a loose Ferris wheel cart, and it fell right through the tent and onto him. There was a fire from the sparks, and so people evacuated. Although crushed, some people claim to have seen his puppets continue to move on their own and drag his body out of the wreckage, never to be seen again." "He doesn't sound so dangerous to me," Fat Cat proclaimed. "Why, I'd go rough him up and turn his puppets into firewood." "Yeah, I don't get it either. Why should we care?" said Patron. I interrupted. "Guys, shush! I'm listening." Damon smirked. "That's just the beginning. People say he never really died. His soul is split between his two puppets. Every year after that, people would die or go missing around the area. I think he's going through bodies. He had to replace his old one. And possession seems to have been his power all along, really. After a while, a possessed body breaks down and needs to be traded in for a new model," he explained. "Jeepers," said Rumi. "So that's the setup?" my brother asked. "We stream ourselves going around this place, have you go around as the undead puppet master character, and that's somehow supposed to be enough to boost Caci significantly?" "No, it's real," I exclaimed. "We are going to find those living puppets and make a fortune exposing the supernatural. You can't honestly think that," Caden shouted disapprovingly. "Oh, come on! You got me into this business, so you gotta help," I said while fuming. "If you need proof," Damon interjected, "you're all welcome to come to my home where I keep every piece of evidence." "I don't think so," Caden insisted. "There's 6 of us and 1 of him," Patron suggested. "It should be fine." Sorry, that's a bad Rumi voice. "It should be fine," said Rumi. Fat Cat spoke up. Sorry, I almost turned into Marge Simpson. "I'll stay here and keep an eye on things." "I'll stay with him," said Type. "It's a cool place for art inspiration." "All right, then. It's settled now," I said excitedly. After that, we all went to Damon's place. We drove for a while. Caden carefully drove the car, following Damon on his motorcycle. We went through a short, graying forest before reaching a path that led to Damon's house. Sorry, I just noticed a typo. It says I was old when it's supposed to say it was old. I'm sorry, I'll fix that in the final version. It was old, and the paint was faded, but otherwise in good shape. It was 2 stories and spacious looking. There was a large tree stump with an axe in it next to a pile of firewood. Damon pulled up to the front stairs, and my brother decelerated to a halt after I, once again, pulled the glove box and turned the radio dial counterclockwise to brake the car. As we were exiting, Damon confidently looked back at us and began to unlock his door. We all followed him inside. Dim sunlight lit the old living room from the strangely spotless windows. Everything about the house was obviously old and harshly aged, except for its quality of the materials. The room was mostly barren, with just a couch, lamp, and smart TV. Patron asked, "Not much of a decorator, are you, Damon?" Damon smirked and shook his head slightly. He looked at us all, almost looking through us, and happily replied, "I live a mostly minimalistic lifestyle, save for my study. It's just upstairs. That's where I keep the really good material." Single file, we followed him up the thin stairs. Damon began to further explain. "I just make sure to keep it clean and in shape." "I like it," I said. "Thanks, Cassie. That means a lot. Really," he replied. I heard Caden whisper to Rumi, "I don't trust anyone this nice to her." We passed the open bedroom, just a bed and a table lamp. Finally, we reached the study at the end of his long and wide hallway. It was so very different. An inviting reddish-brown interior, hardwood flooring, and a slightly dark red, gold-trimmed carpet, matching drapes. The side walls were giant bookshelves filled to the brim with everything from Shakespeare to R.L. Stein, from Stoker to Araki. There were several display cases with seemingly random objects within. One in the center, on a pedestal. Damon opened it, and we all circled around it, puzzled. My brother broke the silence. "What is that?" Damon put on a glove and pulled out a wooden puppet arm, slightly burned and crushed-looking. He spoke. "It's a puppet hand, charged with the remnant psychic energy of Sumio himself." Caden laughed. Quizzaciously, he shouted, "How do you expect to prove that to anybody here?" Damon's face turned solemn. I told my brother off. "How dare you, Caden? Damon here invited us to town. He's helping with my Halloween event. We are even guests in his house. And you laugh at him?" Damon raised his hand quickly, He said to Caden, "That's quite a normal reaction. Just touch the hand yourself and you'll know." Begrudgingly, he reached for it. As his hand made contact, he started shaking and sputtering. I panicked as he dropped to the ground. He let go of the puppet arm, and Rumi came to help him up. "What just happened to him?" Patron demanded harshly. "He felt the presence," Damon explained. "He saw what Sumio saw. A direct link to him. Do you believe me now?" Me and Rumi helped him up as he kept jittering. "I can't believe it," he stuttered. It was so real. I can't believe it." He stood on his own and saw his hand. "Caden!" I exclaimed. "There's something on your hand, where you touched the puppet." Panickingly, he looked at his right hand. It looked like a burn mark. It was a sketchy shape looking like an eye. Damon interjected. "It's just a leftover mark. It will wear off in the next few hours now. It's nothing to panic about. It's quite common in town. Just lay down on the couch for a while." "Wait," said Patron. "What did you see? Caden, what was it like?" Caden tried to gain his composure before properly answering. "I saw Type and Fat Cat?" "Oh no," Damon said. "Oh no, what?" I worryingly asked, frightened. "Yeah, what?" asked Rumi. "That's a direct link to Sumio's vision," he explained briskly. "It means that Sumio sees them, right now, at Psionic Park." "What?" I shouted. He went on quickly. "Rumi, you stay here with Caden and call the police. Tell them to go to the amusement park immediately. Cassie, Patron, come with me." Chapter 4. Me and Patron sped back the way we came in my Cadillac, hoping to get there before anything bad could occur. We assumed Damon was following right behind us. Upon approaching, Patron got the glove box and dial ready for breaking. I narrowly managed to stop before crashing into the gate. Without waiting for Damon to catch up, we climbed our way in. We began screaming their names. Eventually, we ran into them. They were hanging out near the Ferris wheel, just chatting. "What is it?" Type inquired. I burst out. "Caden shook a puppet's hand. He saw through Sumio's eyes." "What?" he said again. "It's true, man," Patron started. "It's all true now. He got a burn mark on his hand. He could see you two." "I'm not scared. Besides, where is everyone else now?" questioned Fat Cat. I said, "Caden and Rumi stayed at Damon's house. Damon was right behind us." It was then I actually thought about it. Damon wasn't there. He said we were all going immediately. Maybe this was all just part of a weird Halloween trick on me. Just then, we heard a shrill voice. Merry holidays, it said. We all turned to see a 2.5-foot puppet standing at the cotton candy stand next to us. It looked like a Mrs. Claus. Merry holidays, children, it said again. Patron was the first of us to break the awkward silence. Shakily, he managed to say, "It's a real talking puppet? This cannot be possible." "Jinkies!" shouted Type. "I can't believe it. Catch it, so we know what's really going on here." It ran off. Fat Cat chased it, shouting out, "Kitten power!" We almost went after it ourselves when a Santa puppet appeared behind us, going, "Ho, ho, ho." Type ran after the Mrs. Claus, while Patron and I took on Santa. He ran faster than a wooden dummy should. We chased it to a skee-ball game where Patron leaped over to grab it. They wrestled, but it was stronger than it looked, even though missing its right hand. I jumped in. We all squirmed around, trying to get the drop on the other. Eventually, we were tangled in its strings, unable to move. It detached itself from its own linings and punched Patron in the face, knocking out a tooth. Patron spat out blood and started yelling obscenities at it. The strings cut themselves from our tangle, leaving me and Patron tied up while they reattached themselves to Santa. We watched, trying to get out, as Type and Fat Cat were still going around chasing Mrs. Claus. Eventually, they chased both of the puppets up the roller coaster tracks. Patron finally managed to break our strings, and we ran after them. Approaching, I could see some kind of figure standing on the tracks. It was some kind of man in a blue Santa outfit, holding the puppet strings. The puppets attacked us as we all got closer to him on top of the high tracks. He didn't run, just stood there menacingly. Type and Fat Cat were fighting off the puppets, while me and Patron were lagging behind. The man spoke, the same voice echoing from his puppets. In that hollow, lifeless voice, they said, "New meats, new puppets, come to die." "We've got to help them," I shouted. We ran up the tracks, careful not to step in between its rails. Type and Fat Cat pushed their way forward. Closer, we could see the man's face. It was withered, with sagging skin and yellow eyes that seemed to glow in the sunset. Fat Cat jumped at him, proclaiming, "Kitty power!" The man caught him in his rotting hands. Looking at Fat Cat, he and his puppet said, "One strange one. I'll save you for later." Just then, he threw Fat Cat off the rails. He crash-landed into a popcorn stand on the boardwalk. I was in shock. I froze for a moment, but Patron kept going. The puppets attacked once again. This time, Type managed to throw Santa off over in his rage. He screamed at the top of his lungs, "I'll kill you for that!" He rushed at Sumio. They began to fight. Sumio was withered, but surprisingly strong for his state. Patron rushed to help, but the Santa had already climbed back up and tackled him with Mrs. Claus right behind. I finally snapped out of it and went to help him. "Get off of me, you hooligan," said Sumio. "I'll empty your guts for this." His puppets broke themselves free of us and ran back to their master. They leapt onto Type's back and began beating on him. He was brought to his knees. Sumio took out a knife from his back pocket and raised it above Type. "Happy holidays!" the killer shouted. Just then, Type sprang up and tackled the man. Type, Sumio, and the puppets all fell off the tracks and fell toward the ocean side of the boardwalk. I screamed in horror as I watched helplessly. Type pushed Sumio off of him in midair, but it didn't save him. Type landed on several spikes of the iron fence that surrounded the park. The puppet strings tangled around the fence and around Sumio's neck. Dead, he dangled there, with the Mr. and Mrs. Claus like another puppet, as Type's blood ran down, dripping onto him. They had killed each other. After the shock had worn off, Patron and I went down. Patron threw up. I was still shaking when we came down and held him for support. Wait. Yeah. Sorry, I thought I read that wrong, but I didn't. Sorry. I was still shaking when we came down and held him for support. We heard a faint groaning sound from a popcorn stand. Quickly, we ran over to see Fat Cat. He was still alive, but very injured. We got into my car. Patron decided that he was more ready to drive than I was. Eventually, we were able to find a veterinarian in town and gave Fat Cat to them. Patron made a call to the police and told them what happened. He told them everything about Damon and Sumio and Type. He told me they don't believe me, obviously, but they're going to check the park. Then they'll see. Let's go back to Damon's house and meet up with everyone. We have to tell them. Yeah, I choked out through my tears. I want to see Caden. Chapter 5. We drove into the woods as the night became pitch black. As we approached, Patron said, "Why didn't Damon come with us? Is this a setup? Is he dead too?" Pulling up, I almost forgot to pull the glove box and turn the dial. We nearly crashed into the pile of firewood at the stump. We burst out of the car and Patron took the wood axe from the stump. He walked over to Damon's motorcycle and swung at it repeatedly, saying, "If he wouldn't leave with us, then he's not leaving without us." We stepped inside. Damon came downstairs yelling, "What the devil is going on?" "Why don't you tell us, Damon? If that is your real name," demanded Patron, raising his axe. I cried out, "Where were you?" "I was helping Groomy and Caden," Damon explained. "I went inside to make sure they didn't need anything before I went out with you. But Roomy had slipped while helping Caden up the stairs and hit her head. Where are the others? Type is dead, I shouted. Yeah, added Patron, and Fat Cat is in critical condition. I knew that we should never have come here. Cassie, is that you? I heard Caden's voice from upstairs. Caden, I'm coming up, I exclaimed. You go ahead upstairs, Cassie, said Patron. I need to have some words with Damon. I ran up to see Caden standing next to the bedroom doorway. Worried about Rumi, I asked, Is Rumi okay? Please tell me she's okay. Caden? Caden looked up at the ceiling and said, Relax. She's just resting on the bed. I walked in to see the top of Rumi's head sticking out of the covers. There was some dry blood where she apparently hit her head. Her red blood was the only color painting the otherwise gray and featureless room. I leaned over her and whispered to her, Rumi, are you awake? I have really bad news. She didn't respond. Caden came in and closed the door. I touched her cheek, but it was cold. Rumi? I muttered. Caden came closer. I moved Rumi's hair from in front of the head wound. It was a bullet hole! I began to scream, but Caden covered my mouth. I looked at him. Those weren't his eyes. His eyes were now yellow and began to glow. Get it now, fox girl, he said while pinning me to the wall. Your brother's not home anymore. Now's payback for the amusement park. I struggled, punching and kicking, but he stomped on my tail. He held me strongly against the wall by my mouth with one hand and put the other hand on my waist. He said to me, The boss said not to damage you too much. However, maybe he won't notice if I do this. Panicking, I bit into my brother's hand with all my might. He jerked away in pain, and I screamed, Patron! Patron, help me! I continued to fight back as my possessed brother began to overpower me once again. After a few seconds, the doorknob was broken off, and Patron burst in with the axe ready. He shouted, Caden! What are you doing? My attacker turned around and grabbed the axe handle too quickly for Patron to act. It's not Caden, I shouted. It's Sumio. He's taken my brother too. Patron was getting overpowered. Sumio ripped the axe out from his hands and knocked him onto the floor. He raised the axe high. Before I could think, I had already grabbed the lamp and threw it at his head. Sumio dropped the axe. I picked it up and ran to the far side of the room. He lunged at me in rage as I tossed the axe toward Patron, knowing I wasn't strong enough to keep it. Sumio pinned me to the ground, shouting, Enough with you! I don't care anymore! He began strangling me when I saw Patron behind him. He swung the axe into my brother's shoulder. Twice. Caden's body collapsed to the floor, and I crawled out from under him. Looking down, I cried. I looked at Patron and said, You killed Caden. I didn't know what else to do, he stuttered. It just all happened so fast. Rumi's dead too, I said. I can't believe any of this is really happening, Patron said as we walked toward the door. Just as we were leaving, Caden's body sprang up with a holler. We turned around in surprise. He tried to turn around to face us when, bang! A gunshot rang out from behind us. Caden dropped again, and we turned around to see Damon standing behind us, holding a pistol. That's one end. Sorry. That's one loose end tied up, he said calmly, but didn't lower the weapon. Sorry. Damon! Patron was yelling. You freaking bastard! Before he could finish, Damon had shot him in the face. I screamed as he shot Patron again. I looked at Damon. He smirked at me unapologetically. In a snide tone, he spoke to me. Now, it's just you here. Sometimes I impress myself. The moment I saw you online was the moment that I knew you were meant for me. That's why you killed them? I cried out to him. Yes, he said in a calm voice. Your star ring will be the crown jewel of my special collection. Your tail will make my new favorite scarf come winter. And you will love me. You will be mine for as long as we both shall live from now on. Thinking quickly, I grabbed the axe and ran. He let me go, laughing. I rushed downstairs and burst out of the front door. I ran to my car and tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. That's when I realized that Patron still had the keys. I heard a jingling coming from the house. I turned around and looked back. Damon was holding them at the upstairs window. He laughed at me, calling, "Looking for these, are you?" I began to run on the trail out of desperation. I ran for as long as I had breath. I reached a clearing, almost outside of the forest. Behind me, I heard a car speeding in hot pursuit, headlights getting closer. It was Damon in my own car. I ran as well as I could out of breath, the axe weighing me down. Thinking desperately, I finally thought of something. Damon didn't know how my car brakes worked. I could make him crash if only I could get to the trees in time. He got closer and closer as I got more and more desperate. He began honking, taunting me. As he was nearly on my back, I finally managed to get behind some trees and kept going for a bit before turning back. Damon tried to swerve his car to his left, but without the brakes it was useless. The whole passenger side turned in on itself as it collided with two trees that tore it apart effortlessly. After the carnage, I began to go back to see what was left. Twisted metal and shattered grass. Twisted metal and shattered glass paved the burned dirt. I looked inside for Damon. His seat was bloody, but he wasn't there anymore. Just then, a rock hit me in the back of my leg. I turned around to see Damon several feet behind me. His left arm twisted. His head, his hat. Dang, I can't speak. His face had pieces of shattered glass in it, and his head had a huge gash, exposing his brain. Growling, he lunged at me. In that split second, I steeled myself. I swung the axe as hard as I could into his head wound. He screamed in his pain. His head split completely open, and his brains poured out. Finally, done with it all, I picked up the axe again, just in case. I looked at my wrecked car. I thought of my friends and brother who had all died tonight. Then, I remembered that Fat Cat was still going to make it. With that in mind, I tried to focus on seeing him again, as I heard the sirens of police cars approaching me. All too late for us. The end for this Halloween. So, that's the story. Sorry there was a little scuff in there. But, you know, that's the Cassie way, I guess. After that, there's just a little page at the end commemorating this story for Cassie. It reads, this story was written by me, Cash D. Smith, for the Vtuber Caci Vulpecula. Unfortunately, she has to graduate on the 17th of October, 2021, and thus this story had to be a little rushed now. I hope it's still good enough for you, Cassie. It was great getting to know you, even though the time was so short. We all wish you luck, and I wish you the best future for all eternity. Let me turn off the music now. Looks like this video took an hour to record. I made this for you as my last big gift to you before you have to go away. So I hope you like it. And thank you for letting me make this narration video with my VTuber character, and thank you for letting me post it. Been an inspiration and a good entertainer and a friend. And whenever you want to remember the good old times, you can always come back to this for a listen in a on memory lane. Hear the voice of someone you used to know, and I'll know that you're listening. And with that, I gotta end this recording, so I can get some sleep before I have to go into work. So yeah, thank you again, Cassie. The off chance that our paths may ever cross again in the future, I'll see you next time. I'll see you later. So, TTFN, ta-ta for now. Signing out, Cassie.